United Nations warns of prevalence of hunger in Gaza. Thailand orders immediate relief measures for flood-hit southern provinces. Good afternoon and Salam Malaysia Madani. Thank you for joining us. I'm Jessica Lee and you're watching World Today. The head of the UN Human Rights Office for the occupied Palestinian territory pointed out on Friday that he was alarmed by the prevalence of hunger in Gaza after his recent visit there. Now, when met in Geneva, Ajith Sunghai said that the threat of death by starvation, illness and bombardment is real in Gaza.
Every time I visit Gaza, the level of destruction just gets worse and worse. This time, I was particularly alarmed by the prevalence of hunger. After 13 months of unrelenting violence, the threat of death by starvation, illness, or bombardment is real. Local markets are now non-existent. The UN has been unable to take any humanitarian aid into the northern Gaza, where around 70,000 people are still believed to be present due to repeated impediments or rejection of humanitarian convoys by the Israeli authorities.
Humanitarian agencies have said repeatedly that they face challenging and dangerous operational environment in Gaza and access restrictions that hinder their work. Nearly 100 trucks carrying food for Palestinians were violently looted in November after entering Gaza in one of the worst 8 losses during 13 months of war in the enclave. Meanwhile, outgoing EU Foreign Policy Chief Josep Borrell said that he is leaving Brussels with an enormous, gigantic level of frustration over the inability to stop the massacre in Gaza. Now, he stated that over 250,000 individuals in northern Gaza are beyond assistance.
It is tragic that we could not get this war to an end. But this must happen, and let's use this tragedy that we have seen in Lebanon and Gaza in order to avoid more sufferance for the people in the region. We must pressure the Israeli government and maintain the pressure in Hezbollah to accept the US proposal for a ceasefire.
Besides the inability to stop the attacks on Gaza, he pointed to growing tensions across the Middle East, particularly between Israel and Iran. Borrell also described the situation in Ukraine as worsening and said he is pessimistic that US President-elect Donald Trump will improve it. In a related development, almost 100 Palestinians have been reported killed in Israeli attacks across Gaza over the past 24 hours, including 75 killed in airstrikes on 2 homes in the northern town of Beit Lahia. The besieged territory's government media also said that hunger and suffering among Palestinians in Gaza have reached catastrophic levels. Hospitals in the Palestinian territory have also been hit multiple times since the outbreak of war between Israel and Hamas. According to UNRWA, the conditions for survival in Gaza are diminishing for the 65,000 to 75,000 people estimated to remain there. As Israeli Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu announced a truce with Hezbollah in Lebanon, he vowed to intensify pressure on Hamas in Gaza. Now, Israel's genocide in Gaza has killed at least 44,000 Palestinians and wounded 105,100 since October last year. In Lebanon, at least 3,961 people have been killed and 16,520 wounded in Israeli attacks since the war on Gaza began. Meantime, tens of thousands of Lebanese are heading back to their homes in southern Lebanon after a fragile ceasefire between Lebanon and Israel came into effect on Wednesday. Now, more than 1.3 million people were displaced when the fighting escalated in September. With the ceasefire now in place, many residents have begun their journey home, traveling along the international highway with personal belongings and mixed emotions following months of intense conflict between Israel and Hezbollah and widespread destruction in southern and border villages. The Lebanese Minister of Interior, Bassam Maulawi, held a news conference in Beirut to discuss the return of the displaced, reconstruction efforts, and the implementation of UN Resolution 1701, which aims to end hostilities between Hezbollah and Israel. Meanwhile, the Lebanese army reported on social media that the Israeli military violated the ceasefire agreement multiple times on Wednesday and Thursday by targeting Lebanese territories with various weapons. Earlier, the Lebanese army announced plans to deploy thousands of troops alongside UN peacekeepers in southern Lebanon to help ensure the ceasefire holds. Syrian rebels drove military vehicles around Aleppo province on Friday as clashes with Syrian government forces escalated. Now, fighting in northwestern Syria over the past 3 days has claimed the lives of 27 civilians, marking some of the worst clashes in years between the two parties. Rebels led by Hayat Tahrir al-Sham launched an incursion on Wednesday into a dozen towns and villages in the northwestern province of Aleppo, which is controlled by Syrian President Bashar al-Assad's government. The Syrian military said it continues to confront the attack, saying in a statement it had inflicted heavy losses on the rebels in the countryside of Aleppo and Idlib. The Syrian army stated that it continued to counter the offensive led by the rebels, reporting significant losses inflicted on their opposition in the Aleppo and Idlib countryside. The offensive is the largest since March 2020, when a Russia-Turkey agreement de-escalated hostilities in the northwest. Turkey, which backs some rebel groups in the region, has yet to comment on the recent escalation. An explosion on Friday evening damaged a canal in northern Kosovo, supplying water to 2 coal-fired power plants that generate nearly all of the country's electricity. Authorities said, blaming what they called a terrorist act. Now, there were no immediate reports of injuries, and the cause of the blast was not clear. Kosovo Interior Minister Shalal Zvelka told local media that the explosion, which occurred before 7 p.m. local time, was a terrorist act, and that part of the canal was damaged. Early on Friday, Kosovo police announced increased security measures after 2 recent attacks where hand grenades were hurled at a police station and municipality building in northern Kosovo where ethnic Serbians live. In a sign of ethnic tensions, Kosovo President Vjosa Osmani blamed Serbian criminal gangs for the attack without providing evidence. Independence for ethnic Albanian majority Kosovo came in 2008, almost a decade after a guerrilla uprising against Serbian rule. However, tensions persist, mainly in the north, where the Serbian minority refuses to be recognized Kosovo's statehood and still sees Belgrade as their capital. Britain's parliament voted in favour of a new bill to legalise assisted dying on Friday, opening the way for months of further debate on an issue that has divided the country and raised questions about the standard of palliative care. Now, after a passionate debate in the House of Commons, the lower house of Parliament, 330 lawmakers voted in favour of the terminally ill adults' end-of-life bill, with 275 against.
Order!
Under the bill, mentally competent, terminally ill adults in England and Wales who are assessed by doctors to have 6 months or less left to live would be allowed the right to choose to end their lives with medical help. Now, those in favour of the bill say it is about shortening the death of those who are terminally ill and giving them more control. But opponents say vulnerable ill people may feel they should end their lives for fear of being a burden to their families and society, rather than for their own well-being. Now, others expressed concern there had not been enough time to consider the bill before voting. Now, another case of the new Mpox strain, Clade 1b Mpox, has been detected in the United Kingdom, bringing the total number of infections to 5. The UK Health Security Agency, or the UKHSA, reported a new case was detected in the city of Leeds in an individual who had recently returned from Uganda. The agency added the previous 4 cases were from the same household and have now fully recovered, and there was no connection with the new case. The risk to the UK population was low, while some occasional imported cases may still occur. Now, Clade 1b Mpox has been widespread in the Democratic Republic of Congo, Burundi, Rwanda, Uganda, and Kenya in recent months. Imported cases have been detected in Canada, Sweden, India, Thailand, and Germany. Mpox is a rare infectious disease that can spread between people. It is usually a mild disease that most people recover from within a few weeks, but some may develop complications including fever, headache, muscle aches, and back pain. Coming up next, crane collapse in Thailand, kills 3, injures 10. And before that story, Thai Prime Minister Paetongtarn Shinawatra has ordered swift and comprehensive flood relief measures for southern Thailand, where severe flooding has caused widespread devastation. Government spokesperson Jirayu Hongsup said the Prime Minister expressed deep concern for those affected by the floods, particularly in the heavily impacted provinces of Yala, Pattani, Narathiwat, and Songkhla. In a statement, Jirayu also stated Prime Minister has directed Deputy Prime Minister Anutin Chanvirakul and a team from the Interior Ministry to visit Narathiwat and oversee relief efforts on the ground. Now, earlier, Paetongtarn, who was in Chiang Mai to inspect government's projects, chaired a mobile cabinet meeting. Jirayu added that the Defence Ministry has instructed the Southern Border Provinces Administrative Centre to act as the forward operational unit of the Government Disaster Coordination Centre in the region, ensuring a seamless collaboration with the Central Command for effective relief efforts. He also noted that the Public Health Ministry has deployed medical teams to all affected areas to provide essential healthcare. Now, a crane collapsed at a construction site at Samut Sakhon yesterday, killing 3 workers and injuring 10 others. According to Samut Sakhon Provincial Police, the incident occurred early in the morning while workers were constructing a flyover. The crane unexpectedly collapsed, killing 3 on the spot and injuring 10, several critical. Police and engineers are investigating the cause, with initial suspicions pointing to overloading of the crane's beam. Prime Minister Paetongtarn Shinawatra expressed her deepest condolences in social media and said the government would establish a committee to investigate the incident. Construction accidents are common across Thailand, with business operators often ignoring safety requirements and operating without permits. In March, 7 people were killed when the crane fell during construction work at a factory east of Bangkok. 8 people, including 1 police officer, were killed on Thursday in the northern city of Culiacan, Mexico. Mexican authorities reported this incident marks the latest occurrence in a series of violent events linked to drug cartels that have affected the area. 3 of the fatalities occurred following a shootout at an illegal gambling venue. Sinaloa prosecutor reported another 5 bodies were discovered with signs of torture earlier this week on Tuesday. Sinaloa and its capital, Culiacan, have been grappling with organized crime-related violence, impacting both civilians and security forces within a wider context of internal conflicts between factions of the powerful Sinaloa cartel. Police deploying water cannons, tear gas and pepper spray confronted thousands of pro-European protesters erecting barricades in the centre of Tbilisi on Saturday after Georgia's ruling party said it was halting EU accession talks until 2028. Now, while the government also refusing budgetary grants from Brussels, effectively halting its application to join the bloc, a long-standing national goal. European Union or EU accession is overwhelmingly popular in Georgia, according to opinion polls, and the move saw thousands massed outside the parliament building in Tbilisi on Thursday before they were dispersed by riot police using water cannons and gas. The freezing of application talks has been met with widespread anger in Georgia, which has the aim of EU membership written into its constitution. Protesters carrying Georgian and EU flags pressed towards the Soviet-built fortress-like parliament building and hurled fireworks at police officers. The police forced them away from the assembly and down Rustaveli Boulevard towards the Opera House. Now, still in their thousands, demonstrators seized anything to hand and stood atop ramshackle barricades in a standoff with officers well past midnight. Now, India's economy grew 5.4% on an annual basis in the July to September quarter, marking slower pace, primarily due to diminished growth in manufacturing and consumption. Now, this growth is likely to increase pressure on the central bank to consider reducing interest rates. The gross value added, or GVA, a more stable measure of economic activity, also saw a modest 5.6% growth, easing from a 6.8% increase in the previous quarter. India's chief economic advisor V. Anantha Nageswaran said the growth figure was disappointing amid a challenging global environment. The slowdown, visible across a number of sectors, was indeed most pronounced in manufacturing, where year-on-year growth dropped to 2.2% compared with 7% the previous quarter. Economists say inflation, now running at around 6%, is biting into demand for goods ranging from soaps to shampoos to cars, particularly in urban areas. The government advisor said that growth prospects were still resilient and that rural demand would remain a supporting factor. Coming up in sports, Van Nistelrooy appointed as new Leicester coach. Now, the World Governing Football Association FIFA on Friday announced their nominees for the 2024 FIFA Best Awards. European champions Real Madrid dominated the men's player category with 5 of their current squad included Jude Bellingham, Dani Carvajal, Kylian Mbappe, Federico Valverde and Vinicius Jr., plus recently retired Toni Kroos. Lionel Messi is the only one playing outside of Europe to be nominated. The women's player category has 7 players that appeared for Barcelona during 2024 nominated after the club swept 4 trophies in the season, including the Champions League. They are Aitana Bonmati, Caroline Graham Hansen, Kira Walsh, Lucy Bronze, Mariona Caldenti, Ona Batley and Salma Parayuelo. The top men's coach features an impressive lineup of Carlo Ancelotti of Real Madrid, Lionel Scaloni from the Argentina national team, Luis de la Fuente from the Spain national team, Pep Guardiola of Manchester City, and Xavi Alonso from Bayer Leverkusen. Now, what sets the Best Award apart is its inclusive voting system, giving equal weight to the votes of captains, coaches, journalists, and fans. Supporters can already cast their votes on FIFA's official website, with the voting period closing on the 10th of December. The date for the award ceremony has yet to be announced. Cristiano Ronaldo scored twice as Al Nassr beat Damak 2-0 in their home Saudi Pro League encounter in Riyadh on Friday. The 39-year-old Portuguese star has yet to win a major trophy since arriving in Riyadh in 2022. He struck once in each half on Friday to ensure Al Nassr stayed third, 5 points behind leaders Al Ittihad. Defending champions Al Hilal are second. Now, just over a third of the season has been played. Ronaldo fired home from the penalty spot in the 16th minute after Abdel Kader Bedrani handled in the area. The Algerian defender completed a miserable evening early in the second half when he was red-carded for a dangerous tackle. With 10 minutes remaining, Ronaldo netted from close range to seal the victory. Now, the strike moved him into second place in the league goal-scoring standings with 9, 1 above Karim Benzema of Al Ittihad and 3 behind Alexander Mitrovic of Al Hilal. Elsewhere, Al Qadsiya stayed 4th, level on points with Al Nassr after beating Al Khalij 1-0. Leicester City Football Club announced on Friday that they have appointed Ruud van Nistelrooy as their new manager to replace Steve Cooper on a contract until June 2027. Now, Cooper departed with the Foxes, hovering 2 points above the relegation zone, and the club moved quickly to appoint van Nistelrooy, who had been assistant manager at Manchester United and took interim charge when Erik ten Hag was fired last month. Friday's announcement comes 2 weeks after Van Nistelrooy left his role as interim coach at United, where he led the side to 3 victories and a draw in all competitions. The 48-year-old moved on from Old Trafford after the arrival of Ruben Amorim as United's new permanent manager, despite the Dutchman expressing interest in remaining at the club. The former United striker also played for PSV Eindhoven and Real Madrid, scoring 349 goals at club level and 35 in 70 appearances for the Netherlands. As a coach, Van Nistelrooy previously led PSV in the 2022-2023 season, where he won the Dutch Cup before joining Ten Hag's staff as an assistant coach in July. Now, with Manchester City mired in a 6-game winless slump and facing one of their biggest challenges this season at Liverpool this weekend, manager Pep Guardiola said the onus was on him to prove he can right the ship. Now, a loss at Anfield tomorrow would leave Guardiola's men 11 points adrift of the leaders in the Premier League title race. But the Spaniard said he was thinking of the big picture rather than the potential ramifications of one game.
I have to prove myself now, so it's not excuse. Our role is not there. What I had to do? Cry all the time? Your role is not there. All the 4 central defenders have not been there for a long time in the last month. I have to find a solution. I have to find a way to do it, and this is I'm trying every day.
A 4-0 rout by Tottenham Hotspur at the Etihad last weekend marked their 3rd successive Premier League loss, and a defeat at Anfield would be their first 4-game losing streak in the top flight since 2007. It would also surpass their total number of losses for the whole of 2023 to 2024 season. Now, City fans can take comfort in the fact that their side have climbed back from deficits of 8 points or more to win the league 4 times with Guardiola at the helm. Offbeat segment, Tesla's cyber cab goes on display in Berlin. Paris's iconic Champs-Élysées Avenue sparkled with its annual Christmas lights display early this week, kicking off the holiday season in the French capital. A total of 400 trees on the famed avenue were adorned with LED lights in the form of a wine glass for the holiday display. Tourists and locals alike roam on the avenue, which was closed off to cars as part of Sunday's inauguration, led by athlete Tony Estanguet, the president of this year's Paris Olympics.
Bien sûr, oui, ça reste toujours un incontournable. On a l'habitude que Paris nous fait voir toujours des grandes choses d'envergure internationale. Et là, pour moi, donc, ce qui se passe aujourd'hui aux Champs-Élysées, ou bien la cérémonie à laquelle nous sommes en train d'y assister, donc ça fait partie de ça, quoi. C'est une continuité de la splendeur parisienne.
The lights will glitter on the Champs-Élysées every night until midnight until the 5th of January 2025. Tesla's Cybercab was presented in the German capital last week and will be on display at the Mall of Berlin until the 8th of December. The Cybercab prototype was originally unveiled at a Hollywood-style event in Los Angeles on the 10th of October. The two-seat robo-taxi, which has no steering wheel nor foot pedals, is due to go into production in 2026. However, the target market for the Cybercab isn't clear. The Cybercab sports car looks and two doors, two-seat configuration, a nearly extinct layout in a wider US auto market puzzled some analysts who expected a robo-taxi with more room for passengers and luggage. Now, Tesla's chief executive, Elon Musk, in the October earnings call said the concept vehicle's design was optimized for autonomy and would also deliver affordability. Tesla fans in London and Paris will be able to catch a glimpse of the new model within the same time frame, while those in Amsterdam, Oslo and Stockholm can expect it to be in town from mid to late December. Taylor Swift fans and their parents lined up outside some of Target's nearly 2,000 US stores early on Black Friday to buy copies of a new Eras Tour book. Now, several customers queued up outside Target stores as early as 5 a.m. local time in freezing temperatures, with most of them there to snap up Swift merchandise. The parents of teenage daughters and youngsters in their late 20s were up and about to buy Swift's Eras Tour book, priced at $39.99 US at Target. The retailer is also making available a vinyl album and CD version of the Tortured Poets Department, the anthology, for the first time, containing 35 tracks, including 4 acoustic bonus songs. On X, users shared images of long queues to grab Swift's merchandise, while some noted that a few Target stores saw nearly empty shelves for the Eras Tour book and were out of Tortured Poets vinyl as of 9:30 a.m. local time. Swift, 34, has been setting music industry milestones and boosting local economies with the Eras Tour, with the last leg of the concert happening in Canada currently, a phenomenon that some economists have termed Swiftflation. And that concludes today's edition of World Today. In our top story, UN warns of prevalence of hunger in Gaza. I'm Jessica Lee. From the river to the sea, Palestine will be free. Thank you for joining us.